Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Spin Zone. I'm Spin Doc. Happy to be with you. Appreciate all you guys who are watching here either on X or on YouTube. Appreciate everybody being here. And before we get started, if you can, please give this a like, please give it a share, please give us a follow. It really helps get our message out and get all of our information out to all the people. So please also make sure, if you want all the content from the Daily Bread Network, please make sure to subscribe at Daily Bread /network on YouTube. So welcome in. All right. Before we get started, we do have 3 pictures to talk about today, but as you know, we always start this show with what did we learn from yesterday? For those of you that are watching for the first time, I am a huge believer in that is how you should start every day for capping, or every night if you do it the night before, is what did you learn from the day before? What worked? What didn't work? Were there some things you missed? Were there some things you wanted to apply? The worst thing you can do is just say, when you win, it was my skill. And when you lose, well, it's just bad luck, or it was the or it was the this, or it was the that, or it was, so-and-so was on some bullshit. You can't do that. Okay. You have to be honest with yourself. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll go back and we'll look at yesterday, and especially for the pitchers that we talked about. So the first one was we did talk about Wheels. We did talk about Zach Wheeler, and actually both him and Mackenzie Gore, even though we didn't necessarily talk about him on the show, both him and Mackenzie Gore went under their projected totals, and this happens way more often than you think in divisional rematches for guys with a lot of history. So both guys went way over in the first matchup that they had on opening day. Both guys went under, both got hooked. So that was where I had said yesterday that the Wheeler line looked a little peculiar. I wouldn't call it a pick-me line, but it did look a little peculiar, especially for a guy that had that great of K history and that great of metrics at home. So Wheeler pitched his ass off. I mean, he pitched well. He threw 100 pitches, which is exactly what I said he would throw. And I said that I thought that both of them would straddle the line between one under or one over what the number was. And that's exactly what happened. So those are lines where, with the history that the books have with the guy against the opponent, with the history from the first matchup, you do have a situation where, I mean, these books are billionaires and they have a lot of software and a lot of tools. And so the line was pretty lethally accurate. It was set right for both. And both of them, the reason ultimately, because Gore actually made it to be a finalist for VIP yesterday. And I dumped him at the last minute. I was looking at Gore over and I dumped him at the very, very last second. I said it didn't look right. I said, to me, it's a 50-50 shot for him and Wheels, and both sides are juiced. And the reason why I dumped it then was because there was no value in that play. And what I mean by that is basically an even money play, like plus 100, needs to win at 50.1% of the time to be profitable. That's your easiest example. Minus 110 needs to win at about 51.5 to 52% to be profitable. And it just keeps going on from there. There's a whole math equation you can do for it. But basically what I was saying was, to me, both of these guys are 50-50 shots and both sides are juiced. And that to me says that the books believe that both guys are going to come either within one of the number. No one's torching it. So, it's either going to be 6 or 7, or in Wheeler's case, 7 or 8. And it's going to be close. So when you have a 50-50 shot and both sides are juiced, you're taking negative value either way. No matter which side you play, you're taking negative value. And that's one of those things that when you read into lines, that's one of the ways that these books make money, is by getting people to bet on 50-50 shots enough over the course of different plays and different games that are juiced. Because obviously when you lose a 50-50 shot, you pay juice. when you win a 50-50 shot, you don't get you get your bet back, but you don't win extra money. So that's another reason why playing juiced props, especially ones like that, can be a little dangerous. And so that's what we learned about that. We talked about it yesterday. I said I had a lean on the over for Jacob deGrom. The lineup turned out pretty much what I thought it would be. And Jacob deGrom is looking like Jacob deGrom again. Even in a back-to-back, going from road to home, which isn't as scary as going from road to home, from home to road, is 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, got it done, man. That was just that was Jacob the Machine deGrom last night. He was his velo looked good, his location looked good. He's getting back into the swing of things. And what I like though about deGrom is, I mentioned this yesterday, is that in Texas, different pitching coach, different catchers, everything, they're having him throw a lot more in the zone. When he was in New York, he only threw in the zone about 46% of the time, and would use his breaking balls earlier a lot in counts to try to get guys to chase, so that he could keep throwing them, and so he wouldn't have to just run up his fastball and throw nothing but gas, and then obviously he'd last longer. So Texas is having him go kind of the opposite. He's using his fastball a lot more early, which is a really traditional way to pitch. It's a really traditional way to pitch, and a lot different than what he's used to. His zone percentage is the highest in his career, but he's starting to get used to it. And he's starting to get used to kind of this new way, this new method, et cetera, for pitching. So something to watch for. I'm not ready to just say like, oh my God, like throw your money behind the next over when deGrom's on the mound. It's still opponent and lineup dependent, but he does look a lot more comfortable pitching, and I use this in air quotes, the Texas way versus the New York Mets way. So, and then last but not least, the bane of my existence, didn't touch his strikeout prop. Kudos to all of you that did. If you took the over, Carlos Rodon, murked him, just absolutely torched the Orioles, exercised a lot of demons because he had horrible history in Camden Yards in his previous, not just 2 last year, but previous like 2 outings before that as well. He had horrendous history, almost a 7 ERA, like a 1 point, almost like 2 or almost a 2.0 whip in Camden Yards. It was really, really bad. And he exorcised a lot of demons yesterday. So, yeah, Rodon looks really, really good right now. And so, I am still, he's not quite on my list that's named after him, which my Rodon list, which is guys I won't bet no matter what they are, no matter what their line is, no matter what side, no matter what anything. But he is a guy that I definitely have earmarked for the future to take a closer look at. I personally have absolutely horrendous history with Carlos Rodon. He's one of the pitchers that I just can't figure out, and I always seem to be on the wrong side of. That doesn't keep me off of it. And part of it is, you can say that I'm stubborn, because I'm like, no, damn it. Like I'm not going to be deterred. I know there's some people are just like, never touching this guy again. I wouldn't do that. What I would do is go back and look. And if you do think the line might have value, go back and look at how you bet him in the past, and whether it won or whether it lost is, again, what did I learn from this? What did I see? What could I do different this time? To me, there is no such thing as I'm just unlucky with this guy. Okay. There is a combination of bad luck and bad fortune with things that you might have done differently or could do differently or missed. But to me, there's no such, even with me and Rodon, even though I don't like betting the guy, if the numbers say I got to look at him, then I got to look at him. And that's just the way that it goes. I don't ever just like, because I lost with a guy, say twice, just start throwing guys out and be like, never again, not touching this guy again. You're really, really limiting yourself by doing that. So, but kudos to Mr. Rodon, man. He got it done, and he made the Baltimore hitters look quite silly. He had a no hitter going for a while, and overall had an absolutely phenomenal start. Elsewhere in Major League Baseball is Fast Freddie Peralta. He is fast becoming a guy that I don't know if I can look at an over for him on the road. He's just hasn't been the same pitcher. Just could not throw enough strikes last night. Was great early. Had three strikeouts in his first like 30 pitches, and then just kept trying to hammer the outside over and over and over again with his curveball and his changeup, and the pitches just kept getting further and further outside and were non-competitive. And Freddie doesn't have a super dominating fastball, so then he would go 93, 94 middle in, and even the White Sox can hit stuff like that. So he's a guy where I am still going to probably be looking at him at home. And then for road, depending on what the number is and who the opponent is, I might even be looking at an under. But just on the road, it's really, really tough for me to want to give any love for a Freddie Peralta over. And then the only other one that I wanted to note from yesterday was Shota Imanaga. I'm going to give him a little bit of grace from yesterday because he actually pitched a really good game. 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, no earned runs. There were some weather concerns there. I'm not saying that that's why he pitched it how he did, but there were some weather concerns. He did pitch a lot more to contact in that game, so he's not a guy there just because he only struck out 3 against the Pirates is that I'm going to worry about or think, maybe I want to be off of him. Like I said, a lot of pitch to contact yesterday, and I know that there were some weather concerns for the game. So that would be all for yesterday. Before we get into today, let's get into some of the comments. Roger, happy hump day to you as well. Always with us. I really, really appreciate you, my guy. Thank you for joining. Mom Who Bets is always with us. Thank you again for joining. And I see Cover Kings was on DeGrom. Yep, we talked about that one yesterday. And a couple guys that we're not talking about today, but I'll put them up here. Pablo Slopes, I assume that's Pablo Lopez, under 5.5 at -140. Yeah, the past history would certainly indicate that. If you go and look at his past history, King, this Cleveland team, it's actually pretty laughable. It's shockingly low. Jackson Job, under 3.5 at -120 for Cover Kings as well. Justin, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you. And Cover King saying, I think the books are still overvaluing the Orioles. Yeah, possibly. Especially when they face a lefty. They have just been absolutely horrendous against lefties. And by a lot of metrics coming into this season, they shouldn't be. But Orioles have taken a tumble this year. They don't look like a playoff team at all. And they got probably about a month or so to get this together. Otherwise, which is weird to say from when the season started, is they actually might be looking at being at sellers at the trade deadline. It's way too early to project that yet. I'm just saying is that they're not in good form at all right now. And Mom Who Bet saying a nightmare game for Heaney yesterday. Yeah, it certainly wasn't good. And that's actually a good point, Mom Who Bets, because with Heaney is that he is a guy that does require a lot of chase. He doesn't have an overpowering fastball. He does throw a lot of changeups. He throws a lot of breaking balls, and he requires a whole bunch of chase, and that's just what the Cubs don't do. Or I'm sorry, a lot of them don't do. And so Heaney can operate around the corners. He can operate around the edges of the zone. The risk you run with that is when you have, if he's not snapping it across the corners, if he's not getting umpire calls, and you have a patient team, then you could end up in a situation like he was yesterday. 4 2/3, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, no strikeouts, 2 homers allowed. And I actually had Heaney as an under potentially early, but the rain took me off of that game. I just find it tough to bet games where there's at least a 50 to 60% chance of rain at some point during the start. Guys pitch differently, guys approach it differently, guys could get pulled. It's just, I usually just don't mess with rain, but yes, definitely not a good game for Heaney at all yesterday. So let's get the swing chart up here and we will get on to the business of today, because we do have 3 pitchers to talk about. There are a lot of daytime games as well. So you got ample opportunities here during the day to make some money. The first one that, as we get the swing chart up here, the first one we're going to talk about is a guy that I know there are some people saying, I'm never going to bet this guy again. And I get why. Mr. Chris Sale. As Sharpie refers to it, it's Sale Day. Striking people out at a 27.3% clip. He gets the Rockies, and you already know my thoughts on the Rockies. So let me just kind of give you some thoughts about how and if to play Mr. Sale today. So 3:10 p.m. first pitch. It's a heavily juiced over 6.5 at -160 with an under at good plus money on DraftKings. So let's just talk about Chris Sale in general. First of all, is that to this 6.5 number, Sale is 3-3 this year. He's averaging 6 strikeouts. So the line basically is set at average strikeouts +1 for the Rockies tax. And that's just what you see in general for any pitcher that is against the Rockies, the Angels, the Mariners usually get it when they're on the road. You get, like I said, it's what's called the Rockies tax. So not a lot of history for Chris Sale at Coors Field, which is something to keep in mind because of the way that the air impacts pitches there. So only 2 games pitched lifetime at Coors Field, and there was way back in 2011. So you can't really use that at all. And he didn't even start those games. So, but Sale's pitch mix is one where with his slider, his 4-seamer, his changeup. Now, the way that his 4-seamer runs, which is, if we're on our clock, is in the 4 to 6 range down here. And the way that it breaks, the air at Coors Field, because there's like the most common belief is that pitches don't break at Coors Field. Not necessarily true. The way that it works is there's this phenomenon, and it's called it's atmospheric. It's called the Magnus effect or Mangus effect. And basically what happens is when you displace air around something by using speed and velocity, in this case throwing a baseball, what ends up happening is the spin and the direction at which you throw it, the air molecules build up around that object, and then they need someplace to go. So then they disperse and they push the object further in that direction. That's how pitchers spin the baseball and get snap and break on their balls. Well, when there's less air molecules to build up around something or behind something, and then what you have is you have less of that occurring. Now, it works a lot more in limiting pitchers when you throw pitches that have big, huge breaks. So like a 12 to 6 curve is a one of those ones that can really be impacted by the Coors air, because with the 12 to 6 curve, you needed to start here and then you needed to snap down like this. That doesn't happen because there's less air to build up and around the object, in this case, the ball. And so then it pushes it in it pushes it slower in that direction that you're throwing it. That is why, and that's the phenomenon about why objects or baseballs in this case don't snap and break to the degree that they do in other parks at Coors Field. It's because, so the thin air just means that there's less air molecules to build up and around, which then once those air molecules disperse, what they do is they end up pushing the ball in the direction that the pitcher throws the spin. But the way Sale throws his slider shouldn't necessarily have a huge impact here. It shouldn't necessarily have a huge impact here. Fastballs, I mean, it impacts the movement, but not necessarily, but velo is fine. And then changeups, which is Sale's other pitch. Again, it all depends on where you throw the break, but the direction that Sale throws his pitches, which Sale works diagonally. So we talked about righties that work diagonally, like 1 to 3 and then 7 to 8. Sale is a lefty, so he works in the opposite way. So his fastball and his changeup are in the 9 to 11, and his slider is in the 3 to 5 range. So this way. Now, Sale this year, if we look at his history, he's hit this against the Twins, he's hit this against the Rays, and he's hit this against the Padres of all teams, back before their metrics went kind of in the tank. Missed it against the Diamondbacks, who are very high contact and patient, and against the Phillies and the Dodgers. So the opponent that he gets today is much more along the lines of the Twins and the Rays than it is to the other teams that I just mentioned. The Rockies, I mean, right now their projected lineup, I think they're going 1 lefty, 8 righties, which is probably what I would do as well, because Sale actually is K'ing righties more this year, 28%, and he's also getting chase contact at an absurd 46.9%. We see the Rockies chase rate and chase contact over here, both some of the worst in Major League Baseball. And, you know, I mean, there's really not a whole lot else that we can say about this Rockies lineup. And if they go with this projected lineup, what I'm looking for chase, because if people are going to chase against this guy, then, and I talked about how the way he throws his slider, the air atmosphere might have some impact, but not as much as if you're throwing a big slow curve. If you're throwing a pitch that has a lot of snap, Sale's slider tends to just go gradually this way. So I look at this lineup, and if we get projected, I see that there's a number of guys that chase. Doyle chases. I see Beck is about league average. I see that Toglia chases. I see that Tovar chases. I see that Stallings chases a ton and doesn't make contact. So what I'm saying here is that, you know, the deal with the Rockies, it's over or nothing. Now, the question is, do you want to pay that kind of juice? I want to wait till the final lineup is released. If Kyle Farmer isn't in, I might be willing to pay up that price, because Kyle Farmer, he does chase. He makes decent contact when he does, but he's also a high contact guy. And he has 2 plate appearances, so limited, against Sale, and has not struck out. But then you go and you look at a few of the other guys, and it's limited, but you see that Jordan Beck has faced Sale 3 times, has struck out all 3. You see that he's gotten Brenton Doyle before, and a bunch of the other guys in the lineup have not faced him yet. So for me, I want to see at least 5 to 6 guys in this lineup that will chase, that have above league average chase rates, because if you're chasing against Sale, you're whiffing against Sale, and this team is more than happy to whiff. As you can see, they have one of the worst contact rates inside, outside. It doesn't make a difference. So it depends on the chase rate that they're going to have in this lineup. If we get 5 or 6 of them, I'm perfectly fine with playing Sale. What I'm also interested in potentially doing is taking Sale at the 7+ and then hitching it to something else. I think that can make a lot of sense in this case, because I look at Sale's other props, and I do see that his outs weren't available before. They are now, and they're at 17.5. So they do think that he's going to go 6 innings. Earned runs are at 2.5, which is it's up a little bit. He's usually at 1.5, but that's the Coors tax because of how far balls travel. Sales fastball, if you get a hold of it because of the velo, you can hit it a long way. Walks are 1.5, hits are 4.5. So all things are pretty normal for Chris Sale, and I can there are many worlds here where he picks up 7+. There's worlds, depending on what lineup they put out there, where he can get 8 or 9 just because of how much this team whiffs when they chase. So it's over or nothing for Chris Sale. I would personally, I'm not 100% sure that I want to be in on a 7 or on a 6.5 that juiced. What I might want to do is try to pull it down and hitch it with something else, or what I might do, because we've done this in VIP before, is you bet the 6.5, but you put 1 unit straight up on it. Meaning, if your unit size is $100 and it's minus 160, you don't bet you don't bet 160 to win 100. You bet 100 to win whatever the payout is, and you limit your risk that way. It's a bankroll. It's a bankroll protection tactic that we sometimes use if I'm not 100% confident in the main line. So don't be scared of Chris Sale. Don't be, but also don't run to the window just because of the opponent either. Sale overall, because when you look at his pitch mix this year, his velo has been right about the same. Now, the problem that and one of the things that it's a minor thing, but it could have an impact, is that his slider spin is down. The slider is his main pitch. When he's got it working, it's virtually unhittable. His slider spin is down by about 50 RPMs for the season. Now, I don't necessarily look at a season. I look at the most recent few games, and against Arizona, that slider spin was down by 64 RPMs. So it's probably a nominal difference, but it is something to just pay attention to if you are going to back Sale today, because that is his main out pitch. And if the spin's down on it to begin with and he's in thin air, there could be some potential issues there. However, that's why I want to see, are we going to get guys that are just going to chase this thing? Because if we get the right Rockies lineup, which there's not a whole lot of lineups that they can put out there that aren't the right Rockies lineup, and there's enough chase, then it won't make a difference what the spin is coming in as, because these guys will chase and hack at stuff. So a couple other comments. Adam's saying, Adam's Digest, welcome in, my guy. Pitches get to the plate faster in Coors. Yep. Less air to cut through. And trying to rob FanDuel, good morning to you. Appreciate you joining as well. All right. Next up is another afternoon game, and we have the King, Mr. Michael King, striking guys out at a 29.6% clip. He gets the Giants today at 4:10 p.m., and this line is set a lot, I think, based on some recent and past history, because we get King at an over 6.5 at minus 130 with an under 6.5 at plus 100. All right. So Michael King, you look at Michael King and you look at what the guy throws, and you look at the kind of pitcher he is, and you wouldn't necessarily think that he would be a strikeout machine, especially not with his four-seam fastball, because the thing only averages 93.6 miles per hour. So it's not a dominating fastball. It's kind of like a Jack Flaherty fastball, where you can run it up to 95, 96, but it's not an out pitch. However, it does carry a 39.1% whiff rate for this season, which is way up from last year. Now, What King also throws is he will throw a sinking fastball in the same location. So on our clock, it throws both of them in the 12 to about 2-3-ish range, somewhere in there. And so he throws both of them in there. They both have different spins. They both come in at different velos, and they both have different spin patterns when they come in. So it confuses hitters. He does a good job too of clipping the corners, so you can pick up some. He can pick up some cheap strikes there, and we also have Phil Cousy as an umpire. Phil Cousy averaging 16.8 strikeouts per game, which is above umpire average. Now, he gets the Giants, who are striking out at a 24.7% clip, two righties. That's a solid clip. And King has some decent history against these guys. 69 plate appearances and a 24.6% K rate. The thing with King is that I talk about when he clips the corners and tries to stay on the edges of the zone, is that he carries a very, very solid 52.6% chase contact rate. So we go over to the Giants, and we see that the Giants right about a little bit under league average, right about league average for chase contact. But there are some guys, if they do this, if they have this lineup the way that I think that they'll have it, it's very top and bottom heavy. So now, one thing to keep in mind, and because this is a moving day for the Giants, and so right now their projected lineup as of this moment is 4 lefties and 5 righties. Now, I have to wait to see a lineup on this one, because if you've watched the Giants at all this year, followed the Giants at all this year, what we know is that on moving days, especially moving days when they have a day off the next day, which they don't today, because tomorrow they're at Colorado, but they put out absolute poverty lineups. They did it against Philadelphia when Christopher Sanchez torched them for 13. They've done it multiple other times. On moving days, they have absolute poverty lineups. And so I'm for sure waiting to see if Jung-Hoo Lee is going to be in this lineup, because he is their highest contact guy. He's actually one of the highest contact guys in baseball, and King has no strikeouts in 6 plate appearances against him. Now, who are a few of the guys we want? Well, if you're looking at an over, you want LaMonte Wade Jr., because King has got him 5 times in 10 plate appearances. You also would probably want Chapman would be fine. King's got him 4 times in 21 plate appearances. And there are a few smattering of other guys like Fitzgerald. He's gotten 2 out of 5. And then there's a few others that he's gotten a few times. So LaMonte Wade for sure. Chapman would be nice, and Fitzgerald would be nice to have as well. You get those 3, and you can really, really start looking at an over. The other thing here, I talked about the chase contact, is that the chase rate for the Giants, depending on who they put in this lineup, because sometimes they have guys in these moving day lineups like Sam Huff, who has a 30% chase contact. Even if Tyler Fitzgerald is in, Tyler Fitzgerald chases way above league average and makes contact 5% under. You have a couple other guys, like I talked about. I talked about LaMonte Wade. Wade doesn't chase, but only makes contact at 43% when he does. Casey Schmidt is sometimes in these lineups. He has a 42% chase contact rate. You see where I'm going with this, is that ideally, if you want to play an over for this one, I would want to see the absolute dream scenario would be no Jung-Hoo Lee. And I would see those guys that I just mentioned. So LaMonte Wade, Fitzgerald, and I think it was, Chapman's fine. And then it would also be nice to see a few guys like Huff in there or Schmidt in there. You give me that sort of lineup, which the Giants have been known to do on moving day, and I can get very, very interested in an over on this one. I think that the way the line is set right now either tells me that the books expect close to a regular lineup, or they don't know, or they're not 100% sure yet, because the Giants have surprised us. They've all of a sudden just put out a lineup like an hour and a half before first pitch, and you're like, it's like the major league, the opening of major league. Like, who are these guys? Like, who are these guys? So it is something to pay attention to. Now, if they put their regular lineup out there, if they just go straight up, which Yaz Adames, Lee, Chapman, Ramos, and so forth, what I see in this lineup is I see about 6. So I don't necessarily see 6.5. So, however, King has been so good at home. He's striking guys out at home this year 36.5% of the time. He's also striking out lefties 33% of the time versus 25% to righties. So when I talk about some of those guys being in the lineup, LaMonte Wade is a lefty. If Bailey is in, he'll bat lefty. Yaz is a lefty, but he has decent chase contact. And there's a few other ones that they've put in some of their moving day lineups that are lefties as well. So ideally what I'd want is no Jung-Hoo Lee. I for sure want to see LaMonte Wade. I would love to see Fitzgerald in this lineup, and I would want to see at least 4 lefties here. You give me all of that in a lineup, and it sounds like a lot to ask for, but it's pretty similar to how the Giants have run moving day lineups before. And then I can get very interested in the over. I'm not really looking at an under here, even if they put their regular lineup out, even if Jung-Hoo Lee is in the lineup. And now if you start talking about where Lee's in, LaMonte Wade and Fitzgerald are out, and it's like all righties, maybe, but I'm looking to see what kind of lineup is in here to see if I can get a play on the over. And this is reason 1A why we always wait for lineups. So that's how I would play Michael King here. Like I said, you can certainly go back and listen to all the things that I said, because I rattled off about 3 or 4 things, but I'm working off of my checklist about what I need to see. Last but not least, kind of a mystery man coming into today. He was rolling, but kind of a mystery man now. Mr. Christopher Sanchez, coming off of a start where he did not go very deep at all, only threw about 45, 50 pitch. Actually, he threw exactly 58 pitches against the Mets and left with left forearm tightness. Now, he gets the Nationals, and he gets them at home, striking people out at a 29.5% clip, and we have a 6.5 with -130 with even money basically across the board for the under. Now, what Christopher Sanchez will we see today? Will we see the Christopher Sanchez that was absolutely dominating, or will we see the Christopher Sanchez that kind of struggled here against the Mets? Now, one thing to note for Christopher Sanchez is that his velo was down, way down, as a result of that forearm tightness. Sinker was down by 1 mile an hour. Changeup was down by 1.6. Slider was down by almost 1 mile an hour. Spin was down everywhere until they eventually just pulled the plug. Now, he did not go on the IR. He did not, or on the DL. He did not have a rehab start, and the Phillies did say that they do expect him to be just fine. However, with a guy that throws the ball the way that Christopher Sanchez does, there are cases sometimes where a forearm soreness can be a precursor to an elbow injury. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. God, I hope not, because the man is just pitching his ass off. But it's be interesting to see how he comes out today. Books don't seem to be horribly concerned about it, because they do have his outset at 17.5, so they think he's going to go. Overall, the Nationals do have a relatively low strikeout percentage against this lineup at 22.1%, or against lefties, I should say. Against Sanchez, it's even lower. 55 plate appearances and only 7 Ks for a 12.7% percentage. Now, what I will say is that they have not seen this version of Christopher Sanchez with the added velo, with the added stuff in his pitch mix. So you have a lot of conflicting factors here, because I've talked about before how road Sanchez, when it comes to striking guys out, can be a thing. But home Sanchez has been absolutely lights out, 37.3% this year. It's close to 30 for his entire career. So for Sanchez, I personally, and I put him on here just because I figured he would be of interest because of the injury and how dominant he was beforehand. I am 99.5% sure that I'm just going to take a free lesson today. And what I want to see is if he goes back to throwing the ball the way that he was with the same motion, same everything. And how, if he does, is the velo up? And how does that forearm look? The team says he's okay. And the books seem to think he's okay too, but you never know. Whenever a guy leaves due to injury, I always like seeing at least one start under my belt before I can get to the window on him for his next time. Now, if you are looking at betting Sanchez, what I will tell you is the thing you want to look for is you want to look at chase contact. He has been elite this year, allowing 44.9%. The Nationals, one of the better teams in Major League Baseball over the last 2 weeks in chase contact allowed at 67%. You go to the projected lineup here, which as of right now is 4 lefties and 5 righties. I would expect it to be something pretty similar to this. And a lot of these guys do not have great K history against Sanchez. Abrams 2 out of 2 and 15, Bell 2 and 12. You got Garcia 2 and 12. He hasn't struck out Keibert Ruiz, but I'm going to keep going back to they have not seen this version of Sanchez. So we look at our chase contact. Abrams is way above league average. Rosario is below league average. Ruiz is above league average and everything. Wood is above league average. Lowe is at league average. So it's kind of a mixed bag here, and which makes an over tough, but it also makes it equally as tough to take an under on Sanchez on or at home. So I have a hunch. And my hunch is that he's not going to go strikeout hunting very much today, that he is going to pitch to contact, throw that sinker up in the zone to induce ground balls. That's just a hunch that I have. When I look at the Nationals overall as a team, there are a number of guys here that but when they do make contact, they have a very significantly high ground ball percentage. MLB average for ground balls is 43%. Sanchez, as a sinker baller, and this is how he was last year until he added the velo, was primarily a ground ball pitcher. That makes sense. When you throw the top of the zone and it sinks down, guys hit on top of it, you induce ground balls. You also have I don't even want to call them rumors because they've been proven true, is the Phillies, like the Astros, when the ground ball pitchers are on the mound, just water the living shit out of their infield. Overwater it to the point where it's like squishy. Why do you do that? Well, what happens when ground balls come through wet grass? They slow down and they make them easier to field. So, and don't call me a conspiracy theorist because this has been proven to happen. It happens in Houston, it happens in Philly, and there's probably 1 or 2 more teams that do it. But you look at the ground ball rate for some of the guys in this projected lineup, and you see that over half of them are above major league average in ground ball rate. In fact, the only few that aren't, Abrams isn't, I think Lowe isn't, and I think that that's about it. So 7 of the 9 are above average in ground ball percentage. The scenario that I see here is the Phillies wanting Sanchez to go out there and get work and stay in the rotation, but probably not wanting to just go like balls out ballistic and try to strike out like 15,000 guys, especially when he's just getting over that forearm tightness. So I can see a lot of ground balls today. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with this one yet, but I can tell you there's probably a lot more value on the under than there is on the over. The other thing that you have in this game is that you do have Dan Merzel behind the plate, and Merzel, at least for this year, has been a somewhat hitters friendly umpire. So that's Christopher Sanchez. If the team's not worried about it, then I'm not going to be worried about it either. But I do got to see him. I got to see him. And I think I have a hunch that there's going to be a lot of pitch to contact today because the Nationals have such a high percentage of ground ball hitters in their lineup. All right. That will do it for the three pitchers we're going to talk about. A few more comments. Just wanted to say what's up and good morning to Mario, always with us. And Roger says we have a Tony Gonsolin sighting. It's been forever. I think he's on a short leash. Yeah, I try not to get into the mind of Dave too much. We have a term in VIP where we call it getting Daved. And that's like where a guy just is humming along and then has like one or two things happen and all of a sudden Dave's out there yanking them because the Dodgers are a very analytical team. They are an extremely numbers and metrics based team despite how much talent they have. And Dave has this plan and he's going to follow it and no one's going to get him off of it. So Gonsolin is too hot for me right now to even touch. I am going to take the free lesson for him and kind of see how he goes, especially because of what Adams Digest said. He wasn't good in his minor league starts. That is correct. So we'll see how long he gets today. Especially because there's a whole bunch of guys that are in that bullpen that they can bring in to spell him. So, and Cover King saying Lucas Giolito is back. Yes, he is. Lucas Giolito. I believe he's going to get crushed. He's got a good matchup to get his ass kicked, and he didn't look good last year. He hasn't looked good in his preparation starts. I'm not ready to say that Giolito is quote unquote washed, but man, he did not look good at the end of his last season. Hasn't looked good preparing for this one. So we'll see what happens. But when you're desperate for arms, and there's a guy who has had success, sure, why not? We'll take a chance. Adam says thoughts on Nate Eovaldi against the A's. Yeah, there are some things to like. The A's have been just so disciplined with not striking out. The other thing is Eovaldi doesn't have that phenomenal of history against this projected lineup. Only a 23.3% K rate in 43 plate appearances. I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing it. To me, the line was set pretty closely, but if you are going to play it, over is the way to look. All right. So last but not least, we will finish with some other sides and totals that I just thought might have value. One thing that if you're looking at a plus money for today, I think that the Angels can make sense. Plus 132. There's some numbers that are in Tyler Anderson's line that actually lead me to believe he might have a good start. And it sounds kind of weird to say for a guy like Tyler Anderson, but there are things in this in the numbers and his past history against Seattle that say that he might have a good start. So if you're looking for a plus money line play, I think that the Angels can make some sense. I think that if you're looking at a total for today, the totals that I was looking at are Twins and Guardians under 7, I think makes sense. Cover King's already mentioned about Pablo Lopez being under for strikeouts, a lot of balls put in play. But the Guardians don't have that great of average against him. So he doesn't strike them out, but they also don't get a ton of hits either. And then the other one is out in Chicago, either the under 7.5 for this one. It's already gone down from 8 to 7.5, but Brewers and White Sox under 7.5, or the White Sox team total under is something you can look at as well. Adam's got one last question. Houston starters got a big line versus Detroit, who crushed during the day. The Houston starter. I actually crossed that one off. Let me get that one up. Let me get my little worksheet for that one back up. You're talking about Blauba or Bluba or whatever the hell his name is. I think I'm assuming that's who you're talking about. I just tossed that one out. I don't have enough history with that one to make any kind of reasonable determination. I know. Yeah, like I'm like Blauba, I think his name is. I personally don't know much about him. If there's anybody in the chat, I know that Mario gives us Astros insight sometimes who might happen to know anything about this guy. I just don't know enough about him, and so I just tossed it. And then Adam says, love the Cubs today. Matt Boyd to record the win. Brutal schedule to start. He did. He had a very brutal schedule to start, and it gets infinitely easier. Or it gets much easier today. So I like that look. I like that look definitely. 30% K rate in AAA with a 10% walk. I assume that's Blauba. I assume that's who you're talking about. And so that might be one where I take a free lesson today and see what the kid looks like. And there'll always be more starts. So, all right, that's going to do it for us today. If you haven't yet, please give it a like, subscribe to Daily Bread Network, follow me at Spin Doc Sports on X. Like the video. We appreciate the love. We appreciate all the comments. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thanks for being with us. Best of luck if tailing anything, and we'll see you tomorrow.